Well, Tony, the stands were crowded with people gathered here to just enjoy a mid-afternoon game on a holiday between two local high school hockey teams. And then that joy was shattered in just seconds.
What should have been an ordinary youth hockey game in Pawtucket turned into a scene of terror that no one inside the arena will ever forget. On a crowded afternoon at the M Lynch Arena, families filled the stands, players skated the ice, and the sounds of competition echoed through the building, until gunfire shattered the routine. In front of shocked spectators, Robert Dorgan, 56, opened fire, targeting members of his own family during the game. His ex-wife, Rhonda Dorgan, and their adult son, Aidan Dorgan, were killed. Rhonda's parents, Linda Dorgan and Gerald Dorgan, along with a family friend, were wounded in the chaos. Moments later, the gunman died by suicide at the scene. The attack sent panicked families fleeing for safety and forced the immediate suspension of all interscholastic hockey games, leaving a community struggling to understand how a family tragedy unfolded in such a public and devastating way. The moment the first shots rang out inside the M Lynch Arena, confusion spread faster than fear. At first, many spectators believed they were hearing something else, a dropped object, a loud bang from the rink equipment, anything that fit the normal rhythm of a youth hockey game. But within seconds, the truth became impossible to ignore. People screamed, players froze, parents grabbed their children and ran. The shooting unfolded in full view of families who had come expecting nothing more than a routine afternoon of interscholastic sports. The ice was crowded with teenage players, the stands packed with relatives, friends, and classmates. In that setting, Robert Dorgan, 56, moved deliberately through the arena, armed and focused, targeting his own family members. Police later confirmed the attack was not random. Investigators found no evidence that the shooter intended to harm strangers or the players on the ice. Instead, the violence was intensely personal. Witnesses told authorities that Dorgan approached the seating area where his former wife and relatives were sitting before opening fire. His ex-wife, Rhonda Dorgan, was struck and collapsed at the scene. Nearby, their adult son, Aidan Dorgan, was also shot. Despite rapid medical attention, both later died from their injuries. For those who knew them, the shock was immediate and overwhelming. 2 lives lost in a matter of moments, in a place meant for community and youth. The gunfire did not stop there. Rhonda's parents, Linda Dorgan and Gerald Dorgan, were hit during the attack, as was a family friend who had been sitting nearby. All 3 were rushed to local hospitals with gunshot wounds. Authorities later confirmed that while their injuries were serious, they survived. Inside the arena, panic took over. Parents shielded children with their bodies. Players scrambled off the ice, some still wearing skates as they fled toward exits. Others hid in locker rooms, storage areas, and behind rink barriers. Video from the aftermath showed abandoned bags, spilled drinks, and hockey sticks scattered across the floor, silent evidence of how abruptly normal life had been interrupted. Law enforcement arrived within minutes. Officers secured the building, evacuated those still inside, and moved toward the shooter. By the time police reached him, Robert Dorgan had turned the gun on himself, dying by suicide at the scene. The entire incident, from the first shot to its end, unfolded in a matter of minutes, yet its impact would last far longer. As emergency crews treated victims and transported the wounded, authorities locked down the area surrounding the arena. Parents waited anxiously outside, some reunited quickly with their children, others frantically searching for them. School officials worked alongside police to account for every player and spectator, ensuring no one else had been harmed. Within hours, the Pawtucket community was grappling with a tragedy that felt both deeply personal and incomprehensible. Vigils formed near the arena. Flowers and handwritten notes appeared at its entrance. Many asked the same question: how could something like this happen at a youth sporting event? Police investigations quickly established key facts. The shooting was confirmed as a domestic violence-related attack carried out in a public setting. Authorities stated there was no ongoing threat to the wider community, emphasizing that the shooter had targeted specific individuals. No warning signs or disturbances had been reported earlier that day, and there had been no known confrontation inside the arena before the gunfire erupted. As news spread, officials from school districts and athletic associations took immediate action. All interscholastic hockey games in the region were suspended indefinitely, a move meant both to ensure safety and to give students and families time to process what had happened. Counselors were made available at schools, and crisis response teams were deployed to support players and witnesses. For many young athletes who had been on the ice that day, the experience was life-altering. Coaches described players in shock, some unable to speak, others struggling with guilt simply for having been present. Mental health professionals warn that exposure to such violence, especially in a familiar and trusted environment, can leave lasting psychological scars. As investigators continued their work, attention turned to the lives affected by the shooting. Rhonda Dorgan was remembered by friends as devoted to her family and actively involved in supporting youth sports. Aidan Dorgan, though an adult, had remained closely connected to his parents and extended family. Their deaths left a void that statistics and headlines could not capture. Little was publicly disclosed about Robert Dorgan's personal struggles or possible motives, and authorities were careful not to speculate. What they did confirm was that the shooting followed a history of family separation, though no active restraining orders or immediate threats had been reported at the time of the incident. Officials stressed that domestic violence can escalate unpredictably, particularly when emotions intersect with public settings. The presence of a Good Samaritan, who attempted to intervene during the chaos, was later acknowledged by police. While details were limited, authorities credited the quick response of both civilians and law enforcement with preventing further injuries. Still, the fact remained that the attack unfolded quickly enough to claim lives before it could be stopped. In the days that followed, conversations extended far beyond Pawtucket. The shooting reignited national discussions about gun access, domestic violence prevention, and security at youth sporting events. Many parents questioned how safe public venues truly are, even during events built around children and community. Officials reiterated that such incidents are rare, but rarity offered little comfort to those directly affected. For them, the arena would never feel the same. What had once been associated with teamwork, competition, and family pride was now tied to fear and loss. As the investigation concluded, law enforcement emphasized a final, sobering reality. This was not an act of random mass violence, but a family tragedy that spilled into a public space. That distinction mattered legally, but emotionally, the devastation was shared by an entire community. The Dennis M Lynch Arena eventually reopened, but with heightened security and a heavy atmosphere. Each game played afterward carried an unspoken awareness of what had occurred there. The ice was resurfaced, the stands cleaned, but memory does not reset as easily as a scoreboard. For Pawtucket, the shooting became a defining moment, a reminder that violence rooted in private conflict can erupt anywhere, even in places meant to be safe for children. The lives lost that day ensured that the community would never again view a normal game as something guaranteed. What remains is grief, unanswered questions, and a collective resolve to protect one another better. The tragedy at the hockey rink stands as a stark warning. When domestic violence goes unaddressed, its consequences can reach far beyond the family at its center, touching everyone in its path. As the days passed, the reality of what happened inside the rink continued to settle heavily over Pawtucket. For many families, the shock did not fade after the police tape came down or after the arena doors reopened. Parents spoke quietly about how difficult it was to explain the event to their children, how a place associated with teamwork and routine had suddenly become the site of unimaginable violence. Local officials acknowledged that the incident forced a reckoning about safety at youth events. While investigators confirmed there had been no prior warning and no failure of arena staff, the shooting exposed how quickly domestic conflict can erupt in public. Security measures were reviewed, emergency response protocols reassessed, and communication systems strengthened. None of it could undo what had already occurred, but leaders hoped it might prevent a repeat. Counselors working with students and players described lingering trauma. Some children struggled to return to the ice. Others avoided crowded spaces altogether. Mental health professionals emphasized that recovery would not follow a fixed timeline. Exposure to sudden violence, especially when witnessed firsthand, can alter a person's sense of safety for years. The families of the wounded faced long recoveries of their own. Rhonda Dorgan and Gerald Dorgan, along with the injured family friend, required ongoing medical care. Loved ones described a mix of gratitude and grief, relief that they survived, and heartbreak over the loss of Rhonda and Aidan. Hospital rooms became places not just of healing, but of mourning. Community vigils continued, drawing people who had never met the victims but felt connected through shared shock. Candles lined sidewalks, hockey sticks were placed in doorways. Notes left by children expressed confusion in simple language, questions adults themselves struggled to answer. Law enforcement officials, while careful not to speculate, reiterated what the investigation had made clear. This was an act rooted in domestic violence. The shooter, Robert Dorgan, did not act impulsively toward strangers. He targeted people he knew, people connected by family history. That distinction, officials said, underscored a critical lesson. Domestic violence is not confined to private spaces. When it escalates, it can spill into schools, workplaces, and community venues with devastating consequences. Advocates for domestic violence prevention used the moment to push for awareness and early intervention. They emphasized warning signs that often go unnoticed: controlling behavior, unresolved separation conflicts, fixation, and emotional instability. While not every case can be predicted, advocates argued that taking threats seriously and offering support earlier can save lives. In the broader national conversation, the Pawtucket shooting joined a growing list of incidents that challenge assumptions about where violence occurs. It did not happen late at night or during criminal activity. It happened in the middle of a youth sporting event, under bright lights, surrounded by families. That reality unsettled even those far removed from the community. For the hockey program involved, the return to play was cautious and symbolic. When games resumed, moments of silence preceded face-offs. Players wore ribbons. Coaches spoke not about winning, but about resilience and looking out for one another. The sport continued, but with a deeper awareness of fragility. Inside the M Lynch Arena, the physical signs of violence had long been erased. Fresh ice, repaired seating, normal operations. Yet for those who were there that day, memory lingered in quieter ways, in sudden noises, in crowded stands, in moments when excitement turned unexpectedly into fear. The city itself began to move forward, though cautiously. Community forums were held. School officials answered difficult questions. Police reassured residents while acknowledging that absolute prevention is impossible. What remained was a shared commitment to vigilance, compassion, and support. At the center of it all were two lives lost. Rhonda Dorgan and Aidan Dorgan were remembered not for the way they died, but for the roles they played in the lives around them, as family members, supporters, and ordinary people whose presence mattered. Their deaths became a reminder that statistics never tell the full story. Behind each name is a network of people forever changed. The Pawtucket hockey rink shooting will not be remembered as a mystery. The facts are known, but understanding does not equal closure. What it leaves behind is a warning about the reach of domestic violence, about the speed at which normalcy can shatter, and about the responsibility communities share to notice, intervene, and care before tragedy unfolds in public view. If you found this story important and believe these facts deserve wider attention, please like the video, share it so others understand what really happened, and subscribe to the channel for more carefully researched, truth-based reporting.